So I feel like I've learned quite a bit from this class. Before I knew how to write a research paper, but I didn't actually know how to do the research, how to do the work that was involved with it. And this class has helped me to be able to better do the work. I know how to critically analyze the sources because, as some of you know, I went from being a literature primarily working with literature, and now I'm working with history. And history, we're having to analyze the sources and critically analyze them and see if the people are using their sources correctly and if they're on the right track. But as far as literature went, yeah, we had to make sure they were basically correct. But if I went to Bloom's resources or something like that, it was just you knew that they were professional and they knew what they were talking about, especially because most of what you write about literature is your own interpretation anyway. History is a fraction of that, but it's a portion of the primary sources, what you interpreted out of the primary sources, and whether you can find any secondary sources that could possibly reinforce how you felt or how you interpreted on the source. So this class really helped me in those regards, and it helped me to discuss history because it was really something different because I was able to discuss it instead of just sitting there and listening to it. I was actually able to have an educated conversation with individuals who knew something about history. So I thank y'all for that because I never really had that before. I've had people who knew some stuff, but it was rudimentary and they really had no idea what they were talking about when they did talk about it. We all know people like that. But I just learned to look at it differently, analyze the sources. I've still had quite a tad bit difficulty transitioning from writing literature to writing history because I'm a little unsure on is it just analyze the source and just write about what the source discussed, and because in literature you write in third person and that's it, and it's sort of different. I'm not used to, do I add first person, do I stay in third person? So that's been a little bit different for me. So the writing style is different, and I've had some struggles with that. Also, I went from MLA to Turabian, and if I have my handbook, I'm okay. Aside from, certain things, as we discussed in class, there's multiple ways to cite one particular thing, and in some ways it is only able to be cited in the footnotes because it's something simple, like I want to say an interview or no, email. Email is what we're working with. But yeah, it's just variations and differences. And in some ways it's been a struggle, but it's been a journey because, well, life's a journey. So I like to think of it like that. I've enjoyed the class. I've enjoyed the discussions. I was terrified by my oral presentation. I tried to exude confidence like Caitlin had talked about in our blog, but I got a little tongue-tied. I'm not used to getting tongue-tied. I let my nerves overwork me, which is something that, doesn't need to be done. I could have been a little bit more professional with it. I admit that. I was more, wow. But there were some really good ones out there. I commend everyone on their oral presentations. They're fascinating. I found fascinating. It helps to talk it out. I love talking it out at times more than I do writing, even though sometimes I can think much better than I can writing. My view on history really hasn't changed. I've learned to look at it a little bit differently and to analyze it more and I love primary sources. I love primary sources. Get me with the letters and the hands-on. So archives and stuff like that, I just fell in love with being able to work with that. I didn't actually realize that my public library back at home had an archives, and I went in there and asked the librarian, and I got to look at some of the stuff and learned a lot about my community that I didn't know, which I found absolutely fascinating. And I was able to tap into some more stuff. So archives, I really enjoyed that, and I didn't realize there were so many different things you could do with a history degree. I actually mainly believed there was just teaching, even though I want to teach because I have the passion, and it seems like it'd be a fantastic thing, but mainly because I want to give back for what was given to me, and it is really, there's several influential teachers out there, so I want to influence someone and maybe help awaken a passion in some other individual that was awakened in me by some of my history teachers and professors. So that's why I want to go into education, but I didn't really realize how much there was out there. There's so much out there, and I didn't really realize that until this class. And this class helped me also. I had a love for history before, but this class helped me to fall in love with it even more, to find out the stories, to want to find out more of the stories than, just reading and going, oh, these are some cool adventures, and what this means and what this word means, and visiting certain, because I've always wanted to visit sites. When I went to Montgomery, we just sort of dropped by there. I was going camera crazy with photos of this and that, and there was statues of just so many historical figures, and the first House of the Confederacy was there, and there was the star from where Jefferson Davis got inaugurated, or took his oath, more accurately. But I found all that fascinating. I love it that it happened, and you can stand where that individual was standing, and even though it was so long ago, it doesn't really seem that long ago, because just look at it. I have a 77-year-old aunt, and when I have conversations with her about her childhood, and you think of what she's lived through, it's like she's lived through television coming. She's lived through when they farmed. Well, not farm, but when they picked cotton, and that was a major industry, because we hear about it and you see some, but you don't really see it as a major industry that much anymore. And especially in Alabama, you can walk. I know in Fayette, you can drive by and they've got tons of cotton, like a huge cotton field. And in Walker County, you don't really see that much. And I didn't realize that was such a, when you hear about it, that it was such a huge thing. But hearing the stories firsthand is another thing. An instructor had given us some cotton. He's like, you can have the cotton, and you can possibly plant the seed. So, you can have some little cotton for recreational purposes or whatnot. But each individual's, I handed that cotton to several individuals. My two supervisors, because I was working 2 jobs at the time, and each one had a different story, and my aunt had a different story, and I found that fascinating because it just shows that I can witness something, and you can witness something, and all of our friends and relatives can witness something, but we're all going to, even if it's the same thing we witness, we're all going to have something different. There's different experiences. And as far as when it came to cotton and picking it and growing up in that time, each individual had a different opinion. I had one of my supervisors, Miss Sheila, actually spoke about how she remembered getting in trouble from her mother because she was much older than all her younger siblings, but she couldn't pick it as fast as all the others. She also mentioned how her father got what was it? How her father actually went into debt to buy a machine that would pick cotton for an entire row. And she's like, some other farmers would go in debt to get one that would pick it for an entire 10 rows, which was really fancy back then. And then there was my other supervisor, Ms. Barnes, who she discussed how she enjoyed, or not necessarily enjoyed, she said, but how she remembered picking it with her father, getting up really early and going out there and picking it, and how she could pick it almost as fast as he could, and how when they would carry the cotton to the market, she would get to sit on the back of the vehicle, and if they made enough off of the cotton, that he would get them each a little treat, like some candy or something. And I found that fascinating, how, we'd go to the store and get candy and it's no biggie, but back then that was actually a treat. I mean, we all have, different views. And then there was my aunt who remembered, she was the only girl out of all the guys, and she remembered how they didn't want her doing that. She was too small. She wasn't able to do that. They wanted her to stay in the house and do girl stuff. She was really young, can't really remember much. So. But I mean, each story and it's different, and I find it fascinating. And I was just going around to various individuals, just handing them the cotton and getting the responses, and I just found that overwhelming that it was like that. I remember hearing my grandfather talk about when Pearl Harbor was bombed, when he was a boy, going into the town square and listening to FDR on the radio. That was something that's always stuck with me, is hearing about that. So I found that fascinating, how people, if they wanted to get the news, especially about something like that, how the public square was. We don't really use it like that anymore. I know in my hometown, there's the courthouse, and, we all gather around there for the parade, but aside from parades, or there's this zombie movie and there's people dressed like zombies going through the streets, there's not really anything like that. You don't have to go for the news. You can just turn on the television and there's the news. We just recently celebrated Kennedy, and I had so many friends on Facebook who lived during that time, who were children actually during that time, who posted about how even though their parents didn't vote for Kennedy, they felt a sadness when they found out that he'd been assassinated. They remembered how that time is. Each of us, no matter where we were, remember basically bits and pieces about 9/11, how things were presented to us at that young age. Imagine those who were actually there seeing different things that would have brought different emotions, varying for each individual there. So, I mean, history is basically, it's in the eye of the beholder. I mean, we're living history, we're making history. History just keeps adding on. Most of this video is history. By the time it's posted, it's going to be history for me. And history by the time you're done watching it. But what we study is what impacts life, what impacts the world, and there's so much that is impacted. And for a historian to find out how life really was, it takes these interviews and it takes getting down to the sources. And that's why, as far as my Civil War study went, it was sort of difficult because, I mean, I had to infer on some of the stuff, and then in some of the letters, they were in conditions that, even though it was a copy, it was still really difficult to read, and I had to get help in translating some of it, because you know how fancy the cursive was, and everyone's handwriting is different. But the conditions matter, and in some of the cases, some of the letters not all the letters were there. There was several dates when it was spotty, because, either the family didn't want to release those letters, or time eventually destroyed them, or there wasn't any written at that time. And then there's the letters of the women who was corresponding back. In some cases, those wasn't given. So, there's a lot of history we're losing every day. History is being lost, history is being made, history is being preserved. And I find that it's fascinating. But we have to trudge through and try to find out, because there's this myth about history, there's the PG versions about history, there's what we've been told from, this biased point of view. Then there's where we try to search out the truth, find the unbiased parts. It's like Caitlin was talking about in her Cold War analysis, where she was trying to find out, was it Leave It to Beaver? Was it the paranoid, everyone has a bomb shelter? And, she found out that in some areas it wasn't necessarily like that. We have to, do analysis, interview people. She talked to people. I found that absolutely awesome, because, we see these tacky videos of them doing the get underneath your desk or put a book over your head, and it's like, we laugh at that, but in some cases that was actually life. I remember my aunt talking about how things were for them during various stages, but in several cases that was life. Like the little videos the government would show of, this is what you do, and we laughed about it in one of my history courses, because they're pulling out these cans of food and this will help us through these times, and talking about how the radiation wasn't really that harmful for the soldiers, because they had these little things in their pockets which was going to detect it. And in some cases it was so ridiculous, because we know so much better now, but that was what the government was supplying, because I guess they either wanted the threat to be more or they didn't. So you have to analyze each source so critically to get down to the end. And if you don't, there's going to be a skewed, and no matter what you do, we're never really going to get totally accurate. But these people saying, and I've always heard it from people in high school mainly, that, why do we have to study history? Because history is done, it's the same thing every year. Why do we have to study it in every year of high school? Because nothing's going to change. But in fact, history does change. Mainly opinions about, not history itself changes, but the opinions of history change. We discover something that we didn't know before. Something else is unearthed that wasn't unearthed before, and it helps us to discover something else. And I've rambled through most of this video, but my views haven't really changed, but I've grown to love my passion even more, and to fully realize why this was my passion. And this class has been awesome, and I thank you for that.